Welcome everyone, my name's Nigel Clarke and I'm sitting here with a very special guest. It is Mr. Ross Welford. Ross, thank you for being here. We're live on Facebook, baby.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So, for those who don't know, Ross is an author now, but you started off as a journalist and TV producer, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a bit strange being this side of the camera. I'm used to being on the other side.
Used to be on the other side, but don't worry, I'm here, we're going to guide you through. You know the way it works.
You look after me, Nigel.
You know the way it works. So you used to be a TV producer and journalist, and now you've taken to writing children's books.
Yeah, it was a strange thing. I was working. I was a freelancer working in TV production, and my career started winding down. The phone stopped ringing, and I ended up not getting as much work as I wanted, and people who've worked with me in television will probably have their own reasons why that is. I don't know. And so I decided, I ran out of excuses not to write a book. I'd worked with words all my life, really, writing scripts or writing articles and stuff like that. So writing words of some sort was my thing, and people had always said, yeah, Ross, when are you going to write a book?
That's what I was going to ask. Did you always think that eventually you were going to write a book?
Everybody else always thought I was eventually going to write a book.
But you?
I never thought I had it in me. I was scared of it. I was scared. I just didn't. I'd never ever tried. I didn't think I could think of the stories. I made up any amount of excuses to myself why I couldn't do it. And then I ran out of excuses and I ran out of work, and an opportunity came when I had no work and I was living abroad, and I thought, right, I was going to come back. I was going to come back to England, and people were going to say to me, so, you've finished that book that you've been, oh God, no, I just couldn't bear telling them.
Had you even started one?
No.
You've not even dabbled in it or had no ideas for any books? So was there a straw that broke the camel's back, as it were, and that was it? An idea popped in, or
I'd played for months. I'd played for months with a vague idea of a kid who got caught in a time loop. It's the grandfather paradox, which is talked about in Time Travelling with a Hamster.
This is it. We're getting to your first book. So the first book was the Time Travelling Hamster. So carry on.
So I had the idea that time travel can't happen. There's no. Sorry, spoiler.
I was watching a program about Hawkins the other day, and he explained it for me, and now I know that it can't happen.
Yeah, one of the reasons that it can't happen is a thing called the grandfather paradox, which means that if you could travel back in time, you could go back in time to when your grandfather was a boy, kill him before he'd had children. I'm not recommending it, but kill him before he'd had children, which means that you wouldn't exist.
But
so
how
you couldn't build the time machine to go back in time to kill your grandfather. It's a circular thing that cancels itself out. And that had always fascinated me, and I thought, what happened if somebody did do that? And so the grandfather became Al's father.
Right.
He didn't actually murder or kill his father, because that's not a very commercial idea in children's literature. No. But he was definitely involved in it.
Okay.
And so I've subsequently discovered that a lot of good stories begin with a what if.
Yeah.
You ask, what if this happened? So I just asked myself, what if this happened? And I started writing it.
And it came out.
And
so
that was the result.
The thing is, you live in London with your family, you've got kids, a dog, and a hamster.
I do have a hamster now, yeah.
You have a hamster?
I had to get one. My daughter insisted after the book came out. She said, Dad, can we get a hamster? Yeah.
So the book came first, not the hamster, because I was thinking maybe you had a hamster and it was like, okay, we've got a hamster anyway, throw it in the book.
No, the hamster came about because I needed a companion for the main character.
Okay.
And I didn't want a dog, because that seemed a bit obvious. Yeah. And I also needed something that was easily transportable through space-time. Something you could put in his pocket.
Hamster.
A hamster. Everyone likes hamsters.
Everyone loves hamsters. So, the time-travelling hamster, it would make a really good Christmas present, don't you think?
It would. I would recommend it to anybody.
So who would you recommend that if you were thinking about buying it for someone? Who would you say you should buy it for?
You know, I mean, I've heard children as young as 7 enjoying it. I think it's probably a little. Well, you'd have to be a very advanced reader at 7.
They're out there. They are out there.
I'd say 9 or 10 years old, and no upper age limit, because I hear a lot of people say that they're adults and they read it and love it. It's, you know, it's not a very childish children's book. None of them are really.
Now, we are on Facebook Live, so people are watching us chat, and some questions are being fielded to us as well. So I've got one here from Kate, who said, do you plan your novels, or do you just write and see where it takes you? Thanks, Kate.
A bit of both. Where is Kate?
She's out there.
She's out there. It's a bit of both, but largely it's the writers call themselves either planners or pantsers. Either you plan it or you fly by the seat of your pants. And I'm largely a pantser.
Okay.
I like to know where I'm going. I like to know roughly what the ending will be.
Okay.
And I like to know that there's a couple of things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'll think, oh, that would be a really good adventure there if I got to there and if I did that. And I like to know where. Other than that, I just start writing and try and get through to the end. And the good thing is, you can change everything. You can change the ending. the ending of Time Travelling with a Hamster changed.
Mid-flow, a couple of times?
No, it changed after I'd submitted it to the publishers.
They were like, no, we're not having that.
No, they were really nice. They said,
you can't kill his granddad.
No, they said, we'll publish it as it is if you really want it to be like that. Said, but if you want to increase your sales, maybe gently suggest, old boy.
Keywords there.
Yeah,
Keywords.
maybe gently suggest that you change the ending. So
you gently change
it? Yeah, I changed the ending.
That's all right, that's good. All right, what else have we got coming in here? Oh, okay. So, Elena wants to know, what was your favourite childhood book?
I had loads. My favourite childhood author was Enid Blyton. And probably my favourite book of hers, when I was much younger, was The Magic Faraway Tree. I read loads of Enid Blyton. I read all of the Secret Sevens, all of the Famous Fives. I read all of the Mallory Towers and St. Clair's. I was vaguely aware that they were aimed at girls, but I didn't care. It was just written by Enid Blyton.
Yeah.
So I read probably. Nobody's read everything she's written. I mean, you know, her
stacks and stacks.
Vast. Yeah. And then I moved on to Anthony Buckeridge, who wrote School Stories Jennings, which are side-splittingly funny and still in print. So
would you say that Enid Blyton's writings influenced your writing for children?
Maybe. I like her sense of adventure. And I love the way, particularly in Famous Five, and as well Secret Seven, the children are allowed to solve their own problems.
Okay.
One of the biggest problems I think for a children's writer is getting rid of the adults.
Okay.
These days, and much more so even than when Enid Blyton was writing, adults are so involved in the lives of their children.
Yeah.
If children get into trouble, what do? They pick up the phone. Mum, Dad, you know, and you're saying, send me an Uber, you know. And that's what happens. So getting the adults out of the way of the kids is probably one of the biggest problems that children's writers who are writing for contemporary stories have. And that way you make the children solve their own problems.
So in Time Travelling with a Hamster, does our protagonists solve their own problems, would you say?
Very much, yeah. I had very early on, I had advice from another author who said, you're writing a children's book. He said, resourceful. That's what readers like. They like the hero to be resourceful, and to come up with cool ideas in order to solve the problem.
Okay.
And so throughout a lot of the books, you'll find that my heroes coming up with clever little things in the way you go, oh, what a good idea.
Lovely, lovely. So it's about time travelling. I need to ask you this question.
Yeah.
If you could time travel back, which Christmas would you go to and why? We've got Christmas coming up. If you could go back to a Christmas.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask this. I knew it's like the Christmas. I think I wouldn't travel back that far. No, probably to about 10 years ago. I think when my children were 5.
Yeah,
I've got twins who are 15 now, and that Christmas for a 5-year-old is a really magical time. The thing about Santa Claus coming to visit is no longer scary. You know,
it's the real deal once you're 5.
You know, you're not scared about this old man with a beard coming into your house. You get presents. The whole thing is fab, and so
magical.
My children were. Can I show you the thing I did? I scored maximum.
Of course you can.
Maximum dad points for this. Okay.
You giving me dad tips? Come on, let's do this. Let's do this. What have you got for me?
Okay, I got my kids to write on a bit of paper, write their list to Santa.
Do you want me to write my list?
Yeah, go on. What would you like for Christmas? The 1,000-Year-Old Boy is a good book. I recommend it.
I'm getting a copy of The 1,000-Year-Old Boy. I'm going to get you to sign it as well.
All right.
Okay.
So you write, Dear Santa. So I got my kids to do this.
Dear Santa. Okay. Christmas list. Okay. Games.
Okay. Now this is.
So I've got my list on there.
You've got your list on there. Okay.
All right.
So I held it with tongs by the fire. You've got to imagine that this is the fire. And I held it.
Whoa!
That's flash paper. You buy it in magic shops, and it's really highly flammable. You put that in the fire. Boom,
up it goes,
and it's magical for the kids. And they go, wow, Santa's taken my list.
The magic of Christmas is right there in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Now you touch on it just there. You're a big fan of magic, right?
Yeah, I love magic. Magic.
When did that start?
When I was about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I got a magic set from my gran. I was absolutely fascinated, and I think, and I still do it as a hobby. I happen to have I have flash paper lying around the house. You can get it on you can get it in magic shops and everything. And I think I think my love of magic has come over into my writing, because there's a theme, if you like, in my books, is making the impossible possible.
Okay.
So you've got time travel, you've got invisibility, you've got living forever in The 1,000-Year-Old Boy. These are all things that we fantasize about.
Yeah.
In a way, and that's what magic is. Even if it's just a simple card trick or something vanishing, we're pretending that the impossible things, just for that moment, we're pretending that they're possible. And it's a thing that absolutely fascinates me.
You're an old romantic deep down. At heart, you like the magic, don't you?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. And then you've captured that in your writing, I say.
It was a while until I realised that was what was going on. It was probably only about a year ago that this penny dropped, and I realised, making the impossible possible. It's been a theme of my life, and the theme of my life and my books. Yeah.
So that brings us nicely onto your second book. You mentioned it just then. Yeah. What not to do if you turn invisible.
Yeah. Too long a title.
That's an amazing title. It already makes you want to read it.
Yeah.
Where did the idea for that come about?
Do you know what? That was a weird one. I'd written a second book after Hamster came out. I'd written the first draft of a second book. It wasn't a follow-up or anything. It was a completely standalone title, and I'd finished it really quickly. And it must have been about Christmas 2 years ago. And I put the draft away. I always like to do this. Put it away to marinade.
Just come back to it, see if it actually.
Yeah, exactly.
A good
Leave
idea.
it for a few weeks.
I'm all about the marinade, me.
Yeah, exactly. It works, and it also it's a good way. If you've got plot holes, you just leave them, and then you hope that somewhere in the in your mind you can. And I came back to this book, and I so excited. And I read it. I hated it.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it at all.
Wow.
The weird thing was that it was about kids going off in search of a monster.
Yeah.
Well, there was a monster book, and I thought, great. But I didn't know what the monster looked like. I'd left big gaps in the draft. Fill in monster here, and I didn't know what this monster was going to look like. And so I started thinking, oh, what would this monster be? Could it be? It could be like that. Could have multiple. Could it be invisible? What? Could it be invisible? No, it can't be invisible because they did that in the Predator movies. And then I thought, hang on, what if the monster's not invisible, but what if the heroine is?
Okay.
I thought, oh no, don't do that. This is my lazy voice saying, don't do that. That means you've got to rewrite the whole
loads
thing.
of work.
And then the idea just wouldn't go away. So, right. Once upon a time, there was, but I used the same characters. It was Ethel and Boydie, who are the main characters in What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible, were the main characters in this early draft that got junked.
Okay.
So I already had the characters. I already had the sort of relationship dynamic going on, and so I just applied them into a different story, and it worked.
So you mentioned them,
yeah.
Al and Ethel.
Yeah.
If you were to give them a gift, Christmas gift.
Ah, right. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
From your new book.
Yeah.
They're from your new book, right?
No, Al is the character in Hamster. Ethel is the main character in
the second
Invisible.
Yeah, in the second book.
Yeah.
So, if you were to give both of them gifts, Christmas gifts,
right.
What would you give them? What do you think they'd want?
Al is a geeky sort of kid.
Yeah.
He's a lovable geek, and he's right into computers, and obviously he's experimenting with space, time, and travel. So I would recommend that he had this book. Now, this is called 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. It doesn't sound very exciting. But look.
7 brief lessons on physics. I hope these are the good lessons.
It's very, very thin.
Okay.
And it's probably a bit too advanced for most kids. But if you're a little bit older, or if you're an advanced reader.
Or if you're Al.
Or if you're Al.
Yeah.
It was one of the books that I used when I was researching space, time, and time travel and relativity for the book.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny. It's really brief.
Yeah, quick book to read.
And it gives you an insight into things like relativity and space-time and everything. For Ethel, I was going to bring that along to show you, but I remembered that about 3 years ago I gave my last copy of this book to a friend because I've given away loads of copies. It's called Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Oh,
and so I thought she would like it because it's about an invisible man. If ever a book influenced the story, it was that one. I read it about when it first came out, probably about 25 years ago.
Yeah,
and I'd always there was a thing that struck me about it was that he managed to make invisibility. When you read it, he managed to make it seem plausible. He described it in a way that you actually believed it, and I thought if ever I was going to write about invisibility, I would want to write about it as believably as that. Ethel in the book, she doesn't think it's fun being invisible, because think about it really. It would be terrifying if you woke up and found that you were invisible. You'd be terrified.
Yeah.
And so I tried to use that. H.F. Saint, the guy who wrote it, he only ever wrote one book, and then he sold the rights to Hollywood, and it was made into a not very good movie with Chevy Chase, and he retired, and he now lives in France, growing grapes.
Look at that!
And
Facts.
Never wrote another book.
Facts. Okay, so you talk about invisibility. We said that it would probably be a bit terrifying there.
Yeah.
But there must be some plus sides to invisibility, right? So how do you think invisibility could help with Christmas and Christmas gifts?
Christmas gifts? Christmas gifts? I don't know. I can imagine there are times after I've come back from a particularly lively party that I might want to sneak into the house invisibly.
Nice.
So that my kids don't see me.
I like your style.
Yeah. So I think that would probably be the use of it. I'd turn myself invisible, sneak upstairs, and nobody would know that I'd maybe had 1 or 2 shandies too many.
1 or 2. Just 1 or 2.
Just 1 or 2.
Okay. We've talked about the first 2 books. Now let's get to it. the big one.
Yeah.
The 1,000-Year-Old Boy, your newest book.
Yeah.
It's coming out on the 11th of January, is that right?
I believe so.
And tell us, how did it come about? What's it about?
The great thing about this one is that authors get used to. I get used to being asked, where did you get that idea from, or what inspired you? And I never know what the answer is. I just don't know. On this one, though, I know exactly when I got the idea and how it came about. Is that I was thinking I'd already promised my publisher here at Harper Collins. I'd already promised them another book, but it wasn't coming together. It just wasn't gelling. I wasn't that keen on the story. And I thought, what else could I do that takes that idea of making the impossible possible?
Yeah.
And I thought, I've done time travel, done invisibility, and then it's thought immortality, living forever. That's a real dream.
It's a big one.
It's a big one as well. And I'd heard of, but I'd never seen or heard. I think it was a TV sketch or a radio sketch by Mel Brooks, the producer. And he used to do this sketch called The 2,000-Year-Old Man. And which I've never heard, but I just knew that he'd done it. And this came into my head, 2,000-year-old boy, 1,000-year-old boy. That's a good title. And so I called up my publisher the next day. I said, how do you like the 1,000-year-old boy? He said, brilliant. What's it about? I said, it's about a 1,000-year-old boy. He said, tell me no more. Go and write it. And I thought, oh, no, I haven't done what. So I then had to go away and think how you would do this, and ended up with the story of Alfie, who, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but the story starts in 1014 AD.
1014.
Yeah. And he, through a certain process that we learn about in the book, he renders himself ageless. So he's not immortal. He could be killed. I mean, maybe you could stab him or whatever. But he ends up being ageless. He's stuck at 11 years old.
Wow.
Nice to begin with, but it comes with its problems, because how do you then live for the rest of your life as an 11-year-old boy? And he wants to grow up.
You would want to grow up.
That's the tragedy of the situation.
You'd want to get to 12, 13, 14.
And the sad thing is, he makes friends, and his friends all grow up and leave him. And so, yeah, and through a big tragedy happens in his life, and he's suddenly thrust into the middle of 21st century Tyneside.
Wow.
With teachers and social workers, and he's got this big secret, and he knows how to find the antidote to his agelessness, and that's where the adventure starts.
Oh, wow.
He's got to find the antidote so he can start growing again, and he has to
reverse the process so that he can age like a normal person.
Yeah, and so he can grow up and have proper friends.
Wow. 11th of January it's coming out. Now, I hear that this is your favourite cover.
It is, yeah. I love it. If you turn it round, the cover goes all the way through.
You're not meant to do this with books, guys. I'm going to fold it open.
We've got others.
We've got more, but I just want you to be able to see the cover of the book.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's an illustrator called Tom Clahosi Cole, who I think is one of the best in the business, and he's done all of the covers. They all look like a sort of brand, if you like.
Yeah.
Which is lovely, and. Yeah, I think illustrators often. Poor Tom. Does he get his? His name is so small.
The illustrator.
Yeah, the illustrator. Tom. Yeah, it's tiny. Yeah,
disgraceful.
Yeah,
disgraceful. We'll sort that out with Harper Collins.
But the illustrations and the cover is what draws you in the bookshop on Amazon.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I like the look of that.
Yeah.
So I think they should get a.
Now you're showing us that you're actually quite passionate about your artwork and stuff. You dabble a little bit in drawing and illustration, don't you?
I do cartoons, but I was just saying to you before we came.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. You dabble in illustration. Did it ever cross your mind to illustrate your own books a little bit, as it were?
Very early.
Become the Quentin Blake of your own books.
Do you know what, Nigel? I think the difficulty I've got is that I'm just good enough to know that I'm not good enough to do that. You know, you get to a certain level.
Yeah, but
you know.
but I want to. The thing is, you said before, you didn't think you could write a book.
Ah, yeah.
You see, you didn't believe that you could write a book. Suddenly,
self-sabotaging,
3 books later, everyone's like, you can write books.
Yeah. Well,
so is that the same with your illustration? Do you maybe think you can't illustrate a book, but really and truthfully, if we saw your illustrations, would we go, that's amazing, that's perfect for the book?
You see, maybe that's true, but at the moment, I'm really happy with Tom's illustrations.
Maybe
we'll go to another edition.
I'm going to work on him. For book 4, I'm going to try and get him to stick a couple of his own illustrations in there,
maybe.
even if it's a little one underneath the title of the first chapter.
When I sign my name on Time Travelling with a Hamster, if you come and see me at a school event or something, I'll do a little cartoon hamster next to my name.
There you go. See, that's how it starts. It starts with a little cartoon hamster. Soon, illustrations throughout the book. Right, I'm going to go to the Facebook questions now.
Yeah?
Have a look and see what we've got coming in. We've got one here from Jane. Oh, if you could have written another author's book, what would it be and why? Good question, Jane.
Oh, gosh. Another author's book. I would have... No. Anything by David Walliams.
Oh, you're a big Walliams fan?
I am. And also, I'm a big fan of his sales numbers. So, well, he writes really funny books, and he sells millions.
You're with the same company. It's coming. It's coming. We're working on it.
I don't know. No, he's a very funny writer, and my God, does he sell the numbers?
So he would be your choice. Yeah. Oh, that's a good choice, if you ask me. We've got one here from Belle, who wants to know: do you have any plans for book 4?
Well, yes, I do, Belle, but I can't tell you.
Ooh.
If
he told you, he'd have to make you invisible, Belle.
Yeah, that's it. No, the ideas like this are very, very fragile at the moment, and I'm playing with it, and I know roughly what the story is, and I know what the situation is. I know what the magical impossible becoming possible. I know what that is, and I think I know who the main character is. I think it's going to be a girl called Millie. I can tell you that. And other than that, I don't really want to do it. It's a bit like jinxing it, you know.
Yeah.
So watch this space. It'll be out January 2019.
I like that. He's given himself a deadline already.
Well, no, that's my contract. So and so it's gonna. I know it's gonna be written by then.
Okay.
So
cool.
And I'm quite excited about it, but I can't really tell you. Sorry, Belle.
We're excited about it now as well. So good. Okay, we've got one here from Julie. Who's your favourite of the characters that you've created, and why?
That's a good question.
It's
like
always
having
a favourite child, isn't it?
I know.
Dangerous.
See, Al, the hamster. That was my difficult first. That was my first baby.
Yeah.
You know, so I always say I love that one the best. But then, Invisible was my difficult second child, because I told you I wrote it and then ditched it and then wrote it again. So that was my difficult second child. So I loved that the best. And now I've just come up with this one, and I love that one the best because Alfie is. Who is the name of the 1,000-year-old boy? He's such a complex character. He's funny. He struggles with the 21st century. He's got so much history. The biggest challenge of writing the story was which bits to include, because backstory. I've got 1,000 years of backstory, and so you've got to get it into
it's a lot of research there.
Fantastic, I know. So, yeah, I think Alfie is my favourite character because he's a funny boy. He's vulnerable. He's got such a warm heart and such a good heart, and he goes through hell in the book, poor lad. But he does come out of it.
Okay, we've got one here from Eloise that says, where do you write? Do you need a certain writing habitat? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I normally write, and I've got a little office, which is a converted bedroom at home. Sometimes I have a house in the country where if I really need to get solitude and silence. It's good to go there for a few days just to get away. It's just me and the dog and everything. But I try not to. I try not to get locked into having. I try not to have any of these writer's superstitions.
Yeah,
you know, oh, I've got to have my lucky mug and I've got to have my special pencil, and then I just think no,
misery.
Yeah, and they're really excuses, I think, not to get writing. I've got to put all my pencils in a row. So that wastes 30 seconds when actually you should be doing that.
Procrastination.
So exactly. You know, so I
writer's procrastination.
I try not to indulge myself in that.
Okay, you've led me on to one that I want to ask.
Yeah.
Do you have a guilty writer's procrastination?
Oh God, I'm terrible.
Go on.
I'm terrible. It's the same as anything, you know, Twitter, email, the internet, you know. I do something like the switch to my router at home is down in the basement, and it's a right pain to get there from my office. So sometimes I have to get up and switch it off.
Switch it on, then use no internet.
No internet. Trouble is, I've got quite a good 4G signal in my house. So I know that temptation is always there. And I'm no better or no worse than any other writer at combating it.
Okay. Got another question for you here.
Yeah.
What books did you receive as Christmas presents?
Ah, yes. I knew this one was coming up. When I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Every Christmas I would get one of these.
Wow.
Now this is a more recent a more recent reproduction of them.
Okay.
But, everybody in the north of England and Scotland knows of the Bruns and Orwelly. Nobody else anywhere in the country has ever heard of them. They're fabulous cartoons. You can see here, fabulous cartoons, really beautifully drawn, and they would be published in the Sunday Post, which is a Scottish weekly newspaper, and they would bring out a compilation every year. Every Christmas, Santa would bring me a Bruns book or an Orwelly book. Now they're reproducing them in collections, and I still love them, and I would get one every Christmas. And it kind of people often ask me, you know, what did I read when I was growing up?
Yeah.
And as much as the Enid Blyton and all of that, it was stuff like this. I read loads of comics.
Yeah.
Particularly funny comics. Dandy, Beano.
You're a big fan of Dandy and the Beano.
Yeah,
right?
I loved all of that. I didn't often read any of the adventure comics like the Eagle and Hotspur and stuff like that. I wasn't so keen on those. I wanted the funny. I wanted the Topper and the Beezer and the Dandy and the Beano and all of that.
Okay.
I loved those.
Nice. Now you've got another book here.
Yeah.
What's this one about? Tell me about this one. What did you bring this one along for?
That's a funny story.
Go on.
Halfway through writing The 1,000-Year-Old Boy,
yeah,
I saw a news report of a movie that was coming out called How to Stop Time, starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
Okay, good actor.
Based on a book by Matt Haig called How to Stop Time, about a man who was 500 years old. And I thought, oh my God. I was halfway through this thing.
And you were like, oh no, have I just been wasting my time?
No, what am I going to do? And so I called up my publisher, my editor, Nick, and I said, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And he said, no, what is it? And he was very relaxed. He says, you know, don't you worry.
This is an adult book, I'm taking.
It's for adults, yeah. I mean, older kids would like it.
Yeah.
It's not for middle grade. He said, don't you worry. He said, it's not even out yet, so you can't read it.
Okay.
Just go ahead, do your own thing.
Carry on with your own.
It will be different. And so I finished it. Shortly before I finished it, this came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't read it. Just didn't read it. And once it was all finished and sent off, that's when I felt I could go out and buy it. And I've started reading it, and it's great. And it's
so you're reading this at the moment. This is your current.
I'm halfway through. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a great story. And it's really interesting to see some of the similar problems that come up with somebody living a long time.
Yeah.
And how he deals with them. In nearly every instance, very differently from how I deal with them. So they're two completely different books.
Yeah.
But with a similar theme, which is fascinating.
Awesome.
So that was the question. That was the book I was going to buy for Alfie. If you're going to ask me, if you're going to ask me what book would I buy for Alfie in 1,000, I'd buy him that one. It would comfort him that there's been another fictional character having the same
issues as him with that long life.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got another one come in here from Brad. Nice, easy one. What's the name of your dog?
Jess.
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 Jess is a
female border collie.
Female border collie.
Look, can you see?
There she is. Oh, look. There you go. That might come up on the old screen there. There's Jess. Oh.
There you go.
There you go.
She's
Jess.
gorgeous. Yeah, she comes with me everywhere when I'm trying to think up ideas in the park.
Okay, I've got one from Lynn here. I love the time-travelling hamster book. How long does it take you to write a book? Good one.
Well, you know what? Stephen Fry, lovely Stephen Fry, he came up with a great answer to that. He said, your first book takes you as long to write as you've lived.
That's a good answer. Because everything you've experienced up until the point that you write that book.
And then he says, everything else is merely an act of professional writing, which I think undermines it a bit. It's a bit of a shame. So, yeah, Time Travelling with the Hamster took me about, I would say, on and off, a year and a half to write. I wrote about a third of it, I put it down, then I did a big burst of it, and then there was quite a lot of rewriting. The others, well, they come out one a year now, so they take about a year.
About a year. That's some serious writing. That's really going at it.
Yeah.
Because some people it takes a lot longer.
I know. I know, and I see people bringing, and now I see people bringing out, books one book every 3 or 4 years, and I think, you lazy sod, get writing.
You're lucky. You could just churn it out. That's a really good skill to have.
Yeah. Well, I think particularly in middle grade, which is what these books are called. The children grow up so fast.
Yeah, they do.
So if a kid is 9 or 10, gets my book, by the time that they're maybe 13 or 14, they might have moved on to other books. No, let's hope they come back to my books later in life.
Of course, they'll always come back.
Yeah, they want to bring out one a year.
Nice. Well, the thing is, I've just had an idea for our Facebook Live viewers and for anyone else who wants to share this with anyone else. Could I be really cheeky and ask you for 2 full sets of your book? And we'll sign them after this, right? So we'll
just nick them from the shelves. We've got loads.
We'll nick them from the shelves. We're going to nick 2 sets, okay? Yeah. We'll get you to sign them, and we'll give them away as a competition. I've got a blog, you've got a blog.
Yeah.
I'll write a little piece.
All right.
And with a question or something that the viewers at home have to answer, and then we'll pick a couple of winners and give away a couple of your books.
Excellent.
Yeah?
Happy to do that.
So keep an eye on myself and Ross on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and we'll let you know where the competition is, and then you can win a set of his books signed by Ross. So that'll be lovely.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we've got another question coming here from Eloise again. If you could live a day as any of the characters in your books, which would it be? One day.
Definitely Al from Time Travelling with a Hamster. I think because you've got a time machine. Who wouldn't want a time machine?
To be fair.
Just for one day. Because theoretically, I don't know if it works in the... no, it does work in the time travel rules that I invented for that. You could go back with them. That day could be almost endless because you could go back in time and to different parts, go forward in time, and come back to the same day.
Now, if you were living as that person, would that mean you could also become the 1,000-year-old person of? Very good. Would that mean that could happen, couldn't it, with a time machine? Almost.
I suppose. Maybe it could. I've forgotten. There were so many rules about time travel in the book to try and make the plot work. But I think that would work. Yeah. I think
that brings me to my last question.
Yeah.
Is there any crossover between your books at the moment? And if not, would you like there to be?
Do you know what there is?
In the future.
There is. They all take place in the northeast of England.
Okay.
Almost exactly where
Is that where you were born?
It's where I was born, where I grew up. And just for fun, when I wrote Invisible, I made a couple of the characters, a couple of the secondary characters, like kids at the school or a teacher. I made them the same person. And there was a similar shop, I think.
Okay.
So and then I thought, well, that kind of worked. That was quite fun. So in 1,000-Year-Old Boy, there's a teacher from Time Travelling with a Hamster who comes back and he's got a bigger role.
Wow.
And so, but he's moved schools.
Yeah.
So the logic doesn't, it slightly misfits.
So fans of your books will see these tiny little Easter eggs.
Exactly. Yeah. They will go, oh, I recognise that character or something. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I suppose there'll be more in the future books as well.
Yeah.
Ross, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're very welcome.
Really good luck with the new book,
Thank
1,000-Year-Old Boy. It's out 11th of January, folks. But you might win yourself a copy if you pay attention to our social media. We'll maybe get you a copy before that. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Good luck with everything, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks.